What's up, comic book fans, and welcome to Comics Icons. Now, JJ, what they call me, and today we got the fourth issue of what's probably been Marvel's most consistently compelling storyline right now, with Avengers Twilight. And this issue in particular does not disappoint. This story has been hitting on all cylinders ever since it debuted, and Chip Zdarsky's got another smash hit on his hands. And if you're behind and you need to see for yourself, then I place a card at the top of the screen and a link at the end of the video to the whole Avengers Twilight playlist. But my goodness, y'all, this issue is super dope once again. But when we last left off, Steve Rogers was in a huge battle between he and James Stark, the son of Tony Stark and Janet Van Dyne. But as Rogers started to get overwhelmed in that fight, he's helped out by none other than the God of Thunder, the one and only Thor. So if you guys are ready to see how Thor turns the tide in this epic story, then you know what time it is. Let's get it. So when we pick this issue up, Steve Rogers and James Stark are still in the middle of their epic brawl. But now the tide has turned, and with Thor and Ms. Marvel by his side, Steve feels unstoppable. And now he's beating the brakes off of James now. Then he has Thor help to clear the raft with all his destruction around him. But then Tyler notices on the radar that the military is now targeting the raft, and they begin to fire on it. But then one of the planes is hit with a bolt of lightning, and as the other two guys try to figure out where it came from, the God of Thunder lands on one of the planes, asking the pilots to exit the vehicle, which they quickly oblige to. And now, after seeing that he's fighting a losing battle, James Stark makes a business decision and flies up out of there. And then Thor is willing to give him chase, but Steve tells him to leave him be. People are dying here, and this is where they need Thor's help. Then we transition to the Defenders base, and now it's being overrun with people in need of help. And we see Steve trying to speak with Rosa, but she ain't trying to hear anything he's got to say at this point, because she's still pretty pissed. But once again, he apologizes for putting her in this situation. But it's also his oath to help these people, just the same as it is hers. But he's hopeful that they can talk it out once this is all over. Then he reminds her that he still loves her, and although she's mad, you can kind of tell that one melted her heart a little bit. Meanwhile, we get the heroes having a round table discussion. Or maybe I should say a pool table discussion. And Thor is explaining why it's been so long since he's been to Earth. But for him, this is the hard part of immortality. To see his friends lose their lives or grow old while all he can do is watch them suffer. So he just decided to stay away. But Cap offers him some reprieve since he just came for them when they needed him. But while this is going on, Tyler is having a hard time getting Tony Stark conscious again, since they don't really have enough power in their base with all the medical equipment using up the generator. So Thor does what Thor does, and he zaps the contraption with Tony's head, using a jolt of lightning, and it immediately wakes Tony up. Then he begins to tell the team of everything that he's seen. And you can't really help but feel sorry for Tony, being nothing more than a floating head while watching his son be negatively influenced. Yikes. To see his son spiral in front of his eyes with there being nothing that Tony could do about it for decades. But as Steve tries to console Tony, since this wasn't his fault, Tony drops the bomb on Steve. That it's worse than they thought. That it's the Red Skull. He's been pretending to be the brother of Jarvis. He's the CEO of Tony's company and has control of his son James. Damn. And he plans to seize the military and then reveal himself and rule the world as the Red Skull. So now Kamala, she's confused as to why. Why come out as the Red Skull? He's already won. If he's been behind everything, running Stark's company, the Avengers, then America is already his. And while she does pose a pretty good point, Bullseye fills her in on something. Because she's been on a lot of missions all around the world, fighting in countries ruled by dictators. And they all had the same thing in common. They wanted you to know that they did this. They were all men with irrational egos that needed history books to underline their name in red. And like always, Thor provides some comic relief. Ha! Is this our new Hawkeye? To which she's like, I am not. Meanwhile, Luke Cage paints the picture of their reality now. That the Red Skull is running the country, has access to his full military force and Tony's technology, and the public is probably gonna be fine with all of it and attack us for fighting back. Yikes. Then we transition to Stark Tower, and James Stark is there working out his frustrations from taking that L to Steve Rogers by fixing up his suit. And frustrated is probably an understatement to how he's feeling right now. And to make matters worse, all of his tools were on the raft and now at the bottom of the East River. But then Red Skull Jarvis comes in and he trolls James about how he was made to look a fool, even though James really doesn't want to hear it. But here we get to really see the influence that Jarvis Red Skull has on James. And also that he knows that since Rogers now has Tony, then he's gonna learn the truth. But he tells James that Rogers and crew are gonna try to take the country away from us. Your father and his friends, who always kept America in a perpetual state of chaos. All I ever wanted was prosperity and peace for all. And I've been vilified for it, chased through the decades, hiding in the shadows, making things better. All while he's rubbing red blood or paint or something on his face. And now James is starting to get a little bit nervous. Like, what are you talking about? And that's when Jarvis comes clean to James. And he tells him that he's been living a lie. And his real name is Johann Schmidt. And he was once known as the Red Skull. And he will be once again. Then he reminds James that they've both done this together. They were the ones that saved this country. And he needed James to know the truth before they come for us, he says. Before they try to twist your mind against me. Tony Stark isn't your father. I am. And we're in this together, son. I told y'all, man, this story is sick. But then we transition to Steve Rogers training with the shield that he's finally got back after I don't know how many years. But then Tony walks in revealing his new body that Tyler helped him with. And although Tony's not okay with his current state and their situation, he's continuing to move forward. But his mind still feels fuzzy and he can't quite remember much. And the one thing that's really been on his mind is whether or not Jan survived. But when he asks Steve about it, Steve reveals that they assumed that she died with Tony and the rest. Then Tony recaps the last time that he remembers seeing Janet. It was back on H-Day. And he remembers that they had stopped the Hulk and stopped Ultron despite losing so much. And there were still Ultron-enhanced villains on the rampage with heroes falling. He then goes on to say, I knew what was coming next. Only a fool couldn't have read the build-up over the years. America had enough. I watched as they sent everything at what remained of Boston. Not just at the villains, but at us. The people were taking back their lives, their security, and mistook the firefighters for the fire. Then he continues, Jan and I managed to escape Boston, but we couldn't leave without James. I remember I had a plan, and then I just had pain. I don't know how they saw me coming, but they did. But I don't remember what happened to Jan. Maybe she's also a frozen head somewhere, staring at her son as he careens towards fascism. So Cap lets him know that if she is alive, then they're gonna find her. And Tony replies that if she's dead, then damn it, we're gonna avenge her. Then Tony lets Steve know that he's been catching up on things. And now the biggest obstacle that he can see in them toppling the Red Skull and getting James back are these new Avengers. As he then shows Cap a newscast of the Avengers talking about the destruction of the raft and telling the reporters that the people who lay waste to it are their top priority. And the Avengers will bring them to justice. So man, y'all, these guys are in trouble now. And if you're anything like me, I'm wondering what these guys are capable of. But hold on tight, because we're about to find out soon enough. Stick with me. So then we see Luke Cage and Tyler looking on as Tony is trying to break into the Avengers mansion. And Tyler notifies Tony that reports have the other Avengers in Portland dealing with a flood. But it's almost taken care of, so they don't have much time. But Stark is taking too long to figure out the security system. So Bullseye takes things in their own hands and fires an arrow at the system, shutting it down so they can now enter. Tyler had already given her a security override drive just in case. So they all walk into the mansion and they notice that nothing has changed since the last time they were there, with the exception of a painting on the wall that now showcases these new Avengers. But the plan is to get to the command center and set some traps for these new Avengers when they return so they can have the advantage. And while Kamala comments that a sneak attack isn't very Avengers-like, Cap reminds her that the whole world is against them now, so they're gonna have to strike from the shadows. So when they get to the command center, Tyler lets them know that it looks like the other Avengers have left the scene in Portland, and he doesn't know how fast they are, but he's sure they're running out of time. So as Tony tries to pull up their files so they can spot any weaknesses, Kamala then pulls up a hologram of these Avengers, and Tony immediately deciphers that these are all graphic programs: the Avengers, the environments, and the reporters. And Cap then realizes that none of it is real. These Avengers don't even exist. How about that, y'all? But then Jarvis' skull appears on a monitor in front of them, letting them know that the Avengers are real to the world that they keep in line. But now Cap is super confident. Since the Avengers aren't real, he tells Skull that they were the only thing stopping his team from coming for him. But Red Skull, he's not worried about it. And he tells them that what they represent is what will stop you. I've defeated you by giving your precious Americans everything they've ever wanted. Prosperity through ignorance, blind eyes to the suffering of others, to America's global militaristic treachery. They believe what I tell them to believe because their cups are full. It will be resplendent to be able to finally tell them a singular truth, that the Avengers of yesteryear are dead. As Captain yells for everybody to run, but they can't go anywhere as they're locked in and now trapped. But of course, these guys got Thor with them, so they'll be okay. And then Thor, he swings his hammer and he flies straight through a wall, opening a pathway for the rest of the team. And now they hightail it. They all run for their lives. Everybody but Tony, that is. He stays behind because he wants to retrieve the Red Skull's files, because there might be something useful there. And just as he goes to say that he just needs a little more time, the mansion explodes, tossing Cap into the air, who immediately looks back, yelling for Tony. But Tony's just fine. His armor saved him, and he's got Skull's plans now. But he realizes that Skull already has the U.S. military, and he's going to burn down Washington, as we then see the military storm into the White House and arrest the president. Then we transition back over to Jarvis and James as Jarvis looks in on the presidential arrest, then tells the soldiers that he sent out the locations for all the Defender safe houses, and those traitors are their next targets. Meanwhile, James is trying to figure out how the hell does Jarvis know where all the Defender safe houses are. But Jarvis lets him know that people are sheep, James. And while he begins to suit up, he continues. Others use that as a negative metaphor. But sheep are precious and beautiful, useful but in need of guidance, so they may live free away from the wolves. I control the news. But more than that, I control the news individual people see. Comforting news fills American households. But for those with a badge, with sanctioned guns, and military might, they see an America where their president is a traitor, where government is an anti-democratic nightmare. You and I have been running America unofficially for almost a decade now, son. We fed the sheep so well. Their happy sheep lives are because of us. So now, let's make it official. Let us take America. As we can now see Jarvis has donned a new Red Skull Iron Man style suit of armor, and with Ultron's face showing on the monitor behind him. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the issue. Man, I told y'all, this series is crazy. First of all, that Iron Man Red Skull suit is sick. And I'm loving all the twists this series continues to drop. Like Red Skull already knowing where the Defenders' bases are. Sheesh. Right now with his suit and his leadership style, he truly is ruling with an iron fist. But be honest, did you guys think the new Avengers would be fake? These issues have been some of the most well-written stuff Marvel has going right now. And I'm actually mad it's only a miniseries with 2 issues left. This is such an amazing story, and Chip Zdarsky is the man for this. And what do you guys think became of Janet? Do you guys think she's still alive out there? And will Tony get his son back? I also feel like even though it seems like we're building up to a final battle with 2 issues left still, that final one might be an Ultron battle. He's just been waiting in the wings through all of this. So you just know it's about to go down. But you guys go ahead and let those theories fly in the comments. I really want to know how you guys are seeing this. But if you guys enjoyed this video and this channel, and you'd like to support the channel, then you could do so by joining the new Iconic Fan Club channel membership. And there'll be a link in the description to join. But with your membership, you guys will gain access to weekly interactive live streams with yours truly right in front of the camera, where we could talk about everything that's been going down in these issues, as well as ones that you'd like for me to go over in the future. And I've actually even been previewing the upcoming videos to this channel on there. Plus, you guys will get loyalty badges, member shout outs, and more in these videos. Or you guys can donate to the channel with a super thanks. And if you're not able to do either one of those, then it's totally fine. You guys could still be a tremendous help to this channel by dropping a like, share, and subscribing to Comics Icons for more icons in the comic book world. But ladies and gentlemen, it's about that time. I'm out.